NBA refs can make up to $500,000 a year. Collectively, gamblers lose hundreds of millions of dollars a year. The system is built for them to fail. But imagine you could make $500,000 and make others hundreds of millions of dollars a year. It's not only possible, it happened. Enter Tim Donaghy. Donaghy is known as the disgraced former referee who was caught in a gambling scandal in 2007. Whenever he officiated, it wasn't players or fans who were most invested. It was the people who made hundreds of millions off of referee Donaghy. A man with one of the coolest jobs in the world who still wanted the thrill of high stakes, high payouts, and highly questionable choices. And apparently, he never did it for the money. This is a ClutchPoints original in the story of Ref Donaghy, who became a gambling addict and made millions for the mob, all before ending up in prison. Tim Donaghy had a gambling problem. It started small. He and an old friend, Jack Concannon, would place bets on their golf games, and soon they got addicted. It wasn't long before they were making trips out to Atlantic City, even lying to their wives about where they were going. Their innocent betting gradually turned into $10,000 golf games and high-stakes card tables. The insatiable itch for the thrill soon overflowed into sports. Pete Ruggieri, a childhood friend of theirs, was a bookie, and in the early 2000s, Concannon and Donaghy started regularly placing bets with Pete on football, baseball, and hockey games. Being an NBA ref, Donaghy did his best to keep his gambling a secret. Between casino trips, golf games, and sports betting, he would sometimes be carrying thousands of dollars in his pocket at a time. The decision to bet on NBA games wasn't easy. Donaghy didn't want to jeopardize his career. So, Tim and Jack came up with a foolproof system. They'd be on the phone constantly to communicate their picks, and they devised a secret code just in case anyone was listening. On their phone call, Donaghy would mention a city name, signaling to Concannon the game he was referring to. If Donaghy talked about his own wife after that, he was picking the home team. If he talked about Jack's wife, he was picking the away team. Jack would then take the picks and place the bets. And it worked. The dough came rolling in. Though Donaghy said later that he didn't do it for the money. As an NBA referee, he was making about a whopping $275,000 a year. The gambling was to fuel his burning desire for the thrill, for the high-stakes, heart-pounding feeling of having thousands on the line. The duo kept up their secret life for about 3.5 years. Donaghy estimated they got about 70% of their NBA picks right during this time. The betting died down as Donaghy and his family moved to Florida. There, he would encounter a new and more dangerous partner. Jimmy Baba Batista was an old acquaintance Donaghy knew from high school. Donaghy didn't know it, but Batista had been watching him from afar. Batista was a part of a small sports betting group known as the Animals. One of the members of this group was Pete Ruggieri, the bookie for Donaghy and Concannon. Ruggieri noticed that at a certain point, Concannon started winning big on his NBA picks. Even though Donaghy wasn't officially involved, Ruggieri was able to piece together what was going on. The Animals took a closer look at Concannon's bets, and sure enough, Donaghy was the referee in a majority of them. Instead of reporting Donaghy, Pete and his fellow bettors wanted to cash in. As Tim and Jack continued to make their picks, thinking they were clever and sneaky, the Animals made the exact same pick every time. And instead of Concannon's seeming modest bets, the Animals would put up to $100,000 on a game. Donaghy had unwillingly made millions for Jimmy Batista long before they even met in 2006. Tommy Martino, another old friend of Donaghy's, set up the meeting at a hotel. Batista was now running his own business as a bet broker, and he knew he needed Donaghy. According to Donaghy, Batista had ties with the mob and even threatened him, saying gangsters would visit his family if he didn't cooperate. But according to Batista, Donaghy jumped at the chance to earn more money and agreed willingly. Regardless of how it happened, Donaghy would provide insider information to Batista and would receive $2,000 for each correct pick. The three of them worked out a system that night. Donaghy would give the pick to Tommy Martino, who would tell Batista. Keep Donaghy's contact with Batista limited, and no one would know an NBA ref was involved. Donaghy's first pick was a game he was officiating. He chose the Celtics over the Sixers, and Batista put around $500,000 on the Celtics. The Celtics won in the blowout, and the adrenaline rush was back for Donaghy. He even came up with a secret code with Martino for sure-thing picks that they would want to double or triple their bet on. One game, Donaghy was walking in the hallway pre-game when he overheard the Grizzlies coach talking in the locker room. Memphis was plagued with injuries, and the coach said he'd be surprised if they even had enough guys to finish the game. Donaghy called Martino to bet against the Grizzlies and gave their secret code word, SMAGA. SMAGA was the name of a childhood friend they both knew, and it signaled to Martino to up the bet considerably, no questions asked. Sure enough, the Grizzlies lost in a blowout. It was just a 3-month span, but the trio of Donaghy, Martino, and Batista won about 85% of their picks. And Batista wasn't the only one cashing in. Batista had an investor group, a group of close bookies that he knew who were the ones earning the most from Donaghy's picks. They bet heavily on his games, and one member of the group estimated they won over $100 million just from the games Donaghy officiated. With Batista's potential ties to the mob, it's anyone's guess who else was making bank off of Donaghy's picks. In March 2007, the picks stopped as Batista went into rehab. Just a few months later, the FBI got wind of the scandal. They weren't even looking into Donaghy. They were investigating the Gambino crime family and tracking some of their phone calls. Donaghy could sense his whole world was starting to crumble, so he decided to come clean. He willingly sat down with FBI special agents and told them the whole story. Afterwards, the FBI broke the news to NBA Commissioner David Stern, and in July 2007, the New York Post made Donaghy's story public. Shortly after, Donaghy pleaded guilty to 2 charges: conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to transmit gambling information. He was sentenced to 15 months in prison. Batista also got 15 months, and Martino got a year. Out of a job, divorced by his wife, and heading to prison, Donaghy had gone from flying high to seeing his whole world crash and burn. 13 years after he was convicted, Donaghy says he doesn't bet on sports himself anymore, but is more of a consultant for sports gambling. And he was required to give some of the money he won back to the government. Tim Donaghy's tale serves as a warning sign for how far you should go for the thrill. It was never about the money for Tim, and he made considerably less than everyone else who was betting on his games. It was the thrill that had him betting on golf holes. It was the thrill that had him earning millions for sports bettors. And it was the same thrill that got him convicted and sent to jail with his life in ruins. Phil Scala, one of the FBI agents on Donaghy's case, said that in his 30 years of talking with criminals, he'd never heard anyone more remorseful than Donaghy when he confessed. Tim got mixed up with the wrong people and let his gambling itch take control of his life. He was a respected referee at one point, but he made a terrible call off the court.